spaghetti monster is...
I like the spaghetti monster.
Alright, I agree with these. Except the Min. There's only one anti-man.
Well, he multiplied into different spaghetti monsters. So it's like
anti-man. You were correct on that, but they were all facets of him, I believe.
Yeah.
Because
anti-man.
They didn't have to go down to the planet, whereas he did. Alright.
They're astral projections of the anti-man. Oh, it's recording, by the way.
Oh, wait,
hello.
Is it?
Welcome.
Oh, yes. Hey, alright. I must hit the button and not realize it. Okay. Seriously, that was not a fake intro. Alright. Okay.
As good of an introduction as any. We were just talking about men and the patriarchy and society.
No. Ignore me. Alright.
Oh, hello.
Welcome. This is a two-man show, but don't listen to him. Alright.
Thank you for joining us once again on this, the 81st episode of the Drunk Doctor Who podcast, wherein we discuss the 81st serial of Doctor Who.
Planet of Evil. Today is All Saints Day, 2021.
The football team?
Well, actually the football team, the New Orleans Saints, was announced on All Saints Day 1967.
Oh, there you go.
Same
anniversary.
There you go. Or 66. And started playing in 67. I think that's right. But no, it's All Saints Day because it's the day after Halloween.
Could you imagine if they still had the same team from 66?
They would be so.
They had like 90-some-odd-year-old football players.
Yeah, that didn't work. Okay, but
I would tune into that.
Halloween, or All Hallows Eve, is the day the spirits rise up to try to take over the earth.
Happy Halloween.
Yes, Happy Halloween. And All Saints Day is the day when all the saints come back to push them back into the dead.
Oh.
So, anyway.
It's like Christmas and Boxing Day.
Not exactly.
Christmas spirits, and then you box them all up and put them in the attic. And...
Actually, yeah. Okay, so it was 13 years ago today that I proposed to my wife.
Hey, happy proposal anniversary.
Yeah, exactly.
You're really good with dates. I can never keep track of things.
Okay.
Numbers.
Number of episodes, 4. And it
4
ran
episodes.
From September 27th, 1975 to October 18th, 1975.
5 or 6 episodes. Very fast paced.
In the old days, it would have been 6 episodes, but the Tom Baker era has a fast pace to it. That serves it really well. Mm-hmm. It's not kind of dragged out like the 7-parters for Pertwee or the 6 and 8-parters.
I have a list of names.
First 2 Doctors.
They all died. Spoiler.
Lots of death.
They were dying as fast as I wrote down their names. So.
The companions was just Sarah Jane Smith.
Just Sarah Jane Smith.
The antagonist was the Antimatter / and the Anti-Man, which were actually kind of the same thing, kind of things. Solomar, who was actually the Anti-Man. No, sorry. Solomar, who was the control freak controller. And Sorensen, Dr. Sorensen, became the Anti-Man.
Professor Sorensen.
Well, Professor, sorry.
He doesn't have his doctorate.
It is possible, but maybe a community college.
What if we called the doctor the professor instead? Wouldn't that be a more accurate title for him?
Alright.
The professor.
Interestingly enough, during the 7th Doctor, Ace, his companion Ace, calls him Professor. She never calls him Doctor. She only calls him Professor.
I feel like that's something I would do as a companion, just because I'm so against the grain.
For her, it's kind of a sign of respect that he's better than Doctor, he's a professor.
Are professors better than doctors? I feel like professor denotes a more broad area of study rather than...
Yeah, and more teaching. But, I mean, you can be a doctor of dentistry, but you'll never be a professor. By the same token, you can be a professor with a master's and never be a doctor. Mm-hmm. I think they're 2 different areas. But, like I said, oddly enough, Ace calls the 7th Doctor Professor all the time. It's slightly irksome and slightly fun.
Is it irksome for the doctor? Does he prefer the doctor?
There are times when he goes, I told you to call me the doctor. And, but she gets to beat on Daleks with a super modified baseball bat. Yeah. I told you that, yeah. Alright, so...
There's a superhero in One Punch Man that has a baseball bat.
Well, she couldn't normally do this to Daleks, but the baseball bat is psionically modified. So, I mean,
So it's like a sonic screwdriver baseball bat.
Kinda. It got through a lot of their defenses. She was kick-ass, but nobody's that kick-ass, right? So she had the right weapon at the right time. Yeah. So Planet of Evil, it is the second serial from the Fourth Doctor's second season 13. It's a lot of fun.
It's fun.
Remember, we just lost Harry last serial.
Please say goodbye to Harry.
Yeah.
And the one companion.
Mm-hmm.
Begrudgingly so. She almost didn't want to come along.
This is the beginning of a period of time where it's mostly one companion. There are times with 2 companions, times with 3, even very rarely times with 4 or 5 for a single episode.
What do you
But
think
this, most of the time from now on until the revival is one companion.
Do you think something works best over the other? Like, do you prefer one companion or multiple companions, or is it just sort of a mixed bag? Depends on
Okay, if the writing's good, any of it will work. So, if you take time to develop the companions, like they did with the original TARDIS crew, and like they did with the Brigadier, Sarah Jane Smith, or Joe, Brigadier, and Benton, stuff like that. If you take time to develop companions, it can all work. And we will see 4 people in the TARDIS crew later on. But there are other times when just one companion works great.
It's like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man 3, where they had too many villains and they didn't take time to develop them. They're like, oh, that's too many villains for one movie. But then we see in like the Avengers movies where it's like, yeah, you can have lots and lots of characters in one movie as long as you had time to develop, because they all had their own movies and those were pre-established characters.
Most of them. So. Hawkeye never did.
Right.
And Black Widow only had it after she was dead.
They're also really good at just showcasing lots of characters in one movie. So
correct.
They show them how it's done.
Infinity War will be taught in college classes as a new way to do cinema for decades to come.
It's this whole cinematic universe, they're calling it, and everyone's trying to do it now because it's a big cash in for all these. They're trying to do Frankenstein and Dr. Jekyll. What do they call that universe?
The dark universe.
The dark universe. And
Sony's dark
DC's
universe.
trying to do it with the DC superheroes, and everyone's failing at it. But for some reason, Disney Marvel is just...
Well, that's because when it started...
They're the ones who started.
They had a lot of heart, and they had a lot of good writing, good ideas, and it did start out as a universe. It developed into a universe. But everyone else is trying to build up the universe from the very beginning, and it doesn't work that way.
Jump right into the...
And that's what killed Sony's dark universe with the Mummy.
And then Sony also tried to do their own Spider-Man universe with the Amazing Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield one.
Didn't work either.
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
They did about 2 films in.
And then, and DC has been struggling the entire time.
They're kind of taking a real brute force approach to it. They're making bad movies, but they're doing it anyway because it's...
I do love Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman was both of them too.
A lot of people not 1904.
They didn't like the second one. I like the second one.
No, the first one was magnificent.
The first one was.
In the video you sent me.
Yes.
Remember in the first one?
I do remember. I know.
She fights and she learns and she develops. And in the second one, she's just super amazing as a little 8-year-old girl.
It's. I didn't like the first 10 minutes of the movie, but the rest of the movie is so much fun. It's so comic booky.
No. The first one's fantastic.
I agree. The first one's way better. I didn't like the
better.
first 10 minutes of the second one. I still like the second one. It's not a good movie.
You sent me the video.
Okay. Fun. I agree with the video.
Okay.
we watched this video.
DC's bad. Marvel used to be good. They're not good anymore, but that's a whole nother topic.
I'm still excited for the new Spider-Man movie. They're coming out with a new Thor movie. I'm really tuning out a lot of the...
Is that the one with the woman Thor?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, that was Natalie Portman who couldn't hold the prop. Not a real hammer. She couldn't hold the prop. Wait, I think she might have been left-handed. She couldn't hold the prop hammer. Yeah, I mean, she can buff up. I don't think she can buff up to Thor, but if she can, more power to her. But
that's what CGI is for.
And I understand that this is a storyline from the 1990 comics, but that's when they were destroying comics. So yay for destroying comics, now we're going to destroy the movies.
There's certain superhero franchises that I like the other Thor movies, so I'm probably going to watch that one. I like Spider-Man, so I'm going to watch the new Spider-Man movie and the new Doctor Strange movie. But it's a real oversaturation of these superhero movies. So I skipped the whole Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings and the Immortals. I'm not going to see that.
The Eternals. But,
Eternals,
I saw it online referred to as the Urinals.
I didn't see the new Black Widow movie. I heard it was good. I don't think I'm going to see it. I'm so tired of
No, it's bad. And who cares about a character that's already dead? That's why nobody went and saw Han Solo. The character was dead. We don't care.
Yeah. That's all not canon now, though.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
No. Anyway, so Marvel used to be good. They're not good anymore. But I'm not like you. Once I hit my choke point, I'm done. I saw episode 7. I haven't seen any movie after that. Not Han Solo, not Rogue One, not episode 8 or 9. I hit my choke point on the Marvel Universe. Last one I saw was Infinity War. I haven't even seen Endgame because I like the way Infinity War ended.
Yeah.
Hit my choke point on DC. The only thing that I still watch, despite having hit my choke point, is Doctor Who. Because it's the last one. I'm not willing to give it up yet.
That's really my perspective. It's like a conditional choke point. Like, you like this one franchise, this one character, and you'll stick with it. That's Spider-Man for me. And then they branch out into like different mediums and multiple films, and you stuck with Doctor Who, but you didn't do like the audio, radio specials.
No, but I've seen every single spin-off. I've seen every single third party. Yeah. Well, I'm working on the third party stuff.
No matter how much oversaturation of the superhero movies there are, I'm probably going to go watch every Spider-Man movie ever.
No, I mean, I've seen, how many people play Batman now? Like 10? Who cares?
It's a lot.
They're just going to keep restarting Batman. They're going to have a new Batman, a new Joker. It's the same stupid story. Who cares?
What's just really frustrating.
This is about Doctor Who, I swear.
This is about cinema and our general views on
We should have a movie
TV
podcast.
shows.
We really should.
That's a good idea. We do have a movie night.
We do movie nights, and occasionally we'll talk about movies we see and the movie we saw on that movie night.
We're going to watch.
I was thinking next week, actually.
Dune?
Well, not Dune.
What did we watch last time?
We can watch Dune. We watched Dune previously, the original movie.
We watched the original Dune and we talked about that a little bit. We're supposed to watch the remake of Dune at some point. It's already, you can rent it online, so we don't even have to go to the
or just
theater
see it
if you don't want to.
But I want to see that in IMAX. Yeah. That is a movie to see in
Sandworms. And
well, I think Liz and I were going to go tomorrow.
Oh, okay. We'll watch it individually and then we'll confer later on.
Okay, because we wanted to have a date night because
yeah.
We spent too much time with too many people this last weekend, so we want some time together.
Adam just got back from the Renaissance Festival.
Texas Renaissance Festival. Yeah.
Was it spooky? Did they do a Halloween thing?
Yeah, it was Halloween weekend.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? What did we watch last time? Did we have...
We've had a movie, but it's been a little while. Like, it's been maybe a month and a half. So
I think we were going to do a movie and then did Doctor Who instead, is what we did.
Because we had skipped it several weeks.
Yeah, so we didn't do a movie.
Oh my god.
Our last movie was the Nicolas Cage one? Was that it?
Which one?
The Prisoners of the Ghostland, I think.
We saw it in the theater.
Yeah. It was more of a bad movie night, but we kind of...
Yeah, it was a bad movie night. But it was fun. Alright. Okay, so anyway, Doctor Who. Alright.
Who?
Doctor Who. Okay.
Oh, Professor Who.
No. Doctor Who. So...
4 episodes.
Episode 1 opens up. There's an older commander finishing burying somebody. Like, he literally puts the... Not quite a gravestone. It's more of just like a marker into the dirt.
It's like the sort of yard plackets you get when you have a home security thing.
Yeah. Beware of dog. Yeah, that kind of stuff. But they don't have granite on this planet apparently. So, but it's like the 5th or 6th grave in a row.
So
and
do we talk about how? Oh, okay. Go on.
Okay. So anyway, turns out that there's this expedition on this planet. We don't know where it is yet.
It's Zeta Minor.
Right, we find that out later. So it's Zeta Minor.
Right now it's just a giant meatball-looking planet.
Yeah, it comes in, looks like a red
trees.
dodgeball. It looks like Dagobah, if you're familiar with that.
Like a maroon crimson Dagobah.
Yeah. So anyway...
with spaghetti trees.
Turns out that they're mining, and they're mining for the substance. It's not unobtainium or anything silly like that.
It's just antimatter.
Yeah, it turns out to be antimatter, which is even worse.
Or globate.
Yeah. So... the captain says, hey, you gotta get back because you're in Sector 5. There's 15 degrees left until night. Night's when everybody dies. So there's two guys. There's a younger guy and a professor. The younger guy says, we gotta go back. The professor says, we're not going back. The younger guy says, we gotta go back. He says, look, I'm not going out in the woods at night, in this jungle at night. I'm gonna leave you. Professor stays because he's mining this giant vein of antimatter. So the young guy goes back.
Very rich deposit.
Yeah.
It's Baldwin and the Professor Sorensen. And Sorensen's kind of got this like mad scientist, cold sweat on his forehead. He's like, I can't turn from my work.
I must do this. The young guy, Baldwin, goes back. In the meantime, while he's trying to get back to base...
He's not bald, by the way.
Correct.
His name.
Correct. Most Baldwins that we've seen in movies are not bald.
Ironic, yeah.
Alright, and also most Baldwins don't win. Okay, so while the young guy's en route, the old guy is killed, and then he disappears. Then the young guy shows up. He's looking for the old guy, but he's not there. He goes into the base. He gets attacked. He dies.
Was Braun.
Yeah. So we already have 2 deaths.
They pronounce it like Brown, though.
Yeah. We already have 2 deaths, and we haven't even seen the doctor yet. Children's show.
They're bizarre deaths. They kind of disappear.
And then they reappear.
Reappear as dehydrated raisins. And
Right. All of the fluids have been completely drained out of them.
They look like they've been mummified, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like that. So anyway, we then get the doctor, and then it finally goes to the doctor.
So they're leaving from the Terror of the Zygons. And
yeah.
He finally convinces Sarah Jane Smith to get back on the Tardis. He guarantees her that they're going to show up in London in 5 minutes, and then
before they leave.
Yeah, and then they show up. You know, they're 30,000 years off course, and at the edge of the known last planet in this galaxy in the known universe.
No, in the universe. Yeah. Last planet in the universe.
Yes.
And what are you drinking tonight?
We're drinking. Oh yeah. What are we drinking tonight? I'm drinking Twisted Tea. Go figure.
Magna Flame?
I did bring some Jack and Coke, or just Jack. I don't have the Coke. It's actually Jim Beam.
Well, we have Diet Coke. You can drink Jack and Diet Coke.
It's vanilla Jim Beam Diet Coke. It's an interesting drink.
Experiment. Yeah. All right. Then Magna Flame, because, life's too short for bad tasting alcohol.
I'd save the hard liquor until after I drove home and just had a few light beers.
Oddly enough, that actually makes sense. All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right.
Magna Flame, because life's too short for
bad tasting alcohol. All right, so
life's too long for good tasting alcohol.
No.
That's the difference between the college student perspective and the distinguished
gentleman. Are you currently a college student?
I'm taking some online classes.
Oh.
IT courses.
I was unaware.
Yeah. I've been in college for too long. 8 years.
From 18 to 26. Yeah.
I went from associate's in ministry to my art degree to IT technician now. Just certification stuff. So not technically college, more like a
certification course.
Certification courses, yeah.
Okay.
Who knows what I want to do?
They're in the TARDIS. They receive a distress signal. The doctor says we were in a space-time vortex. They land.
The year is 37166.
Yeah, we see that on the tombstone, or the tomb marker.
So even more than 30,000 years off course.
He's rounding. Alright, so
it's funny when numbers get so large, you kind of round them off. But, the difference between, 0.9 and 1 million is like 100,000, but you kind of just round it up to 1 million.
But 100,000 is a lot.
That's a lot to round off, yeah.
Like, 1.4 and 1.5 trillion,
Yeah.
You're looking at $100 billion.
Or if you're thinking about it, like they're in the late 20th century, and maybe before 80, we had like 5,000 years of BC. Maybe that's the 7,000 years. So they are actually 30,000 years off course.
Maybe.
If you think about it.
These are not Earthlings. These are, what are they called?
Time Lords? Oh, they're,
Morassians or something? Mondarians?
The planet Morastrian. They're Morestrians. Morestria was the planet, I think.
Now, in theory, this could be long descendants of Earth because they look like Earthlings. But then again, Time Lords look like Earthlings, or more accurately, Earthlings look like Time Lords.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what we have to work with for actors,
So who knows if there's a consistent scale for years passing.
Yeah, no clue. Anyway. So, they show up, they go down the planet, they're looking around.
Answering the distress call.
Right, the Doctor and Sarah Jane find the little expedition ship. And when they do, it's run out of most of its energy.
Looks like it's been abandoned for, what do you say, a month?
6 months.
6 months, but it just died.
Well, we don't know.
Oh.
But the energy on the ship had been decreasing. The corpses were mummified, so they could have been out there for who knows how long. Both of them, one outside and the one inside.
Mm-hmm.
So the Doctor ends up saying, well, I need to reset this and try to make contact. And I could also examine the corpse if I had this from the ship. Don't remember what it was.
He was trying to examine the star to find out which planet.
Oh yeah, so it was the Star Minder or something?
It was some made up thing.
No, it's something that's actually been in play before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's kind of an orb, which is a star chart of the entire universe.
She pulls out a little disc from his doctor's pouch.
I'm going to assume it's been digitized. But with the first and second Doctors,
I remember that.
It was that orb
it was
thing,
giant, and Hartnell wheeled it out.
Well, it was analog. What do you expect? Back in the day when I had my music on a vinyl disc this big,
But they're Time Lords. They're supposed to have technology. Everything in cell phone form.
Well, yeah, but we didn't have the technology to display that. Us humans during Hartnell's era.
Well, they don't hear either. It's all fake. It's movie props.
Oh, wait. By the 70s, we were getting into that.
You just still using ticker tape and...
No, floppy disks.
Like, you think they just invent something that would be like, oh, I'm sure we're not using this technology in the future, so let's just invent some holographic thing. But no, they're like, oh yeah, I'm sure they're still using the same floppy disks in the future.
No, but speaking of...
Let's put some lights on it and it'll look futuristic.
We'll get to the technology that they're predicting.
Or set design.
Alright.
The astral map thing.
Well, that was back in the 60s. Alright, anyway. So she goes to get that. In the meantime, he's looking around the ship and he finds the second dead body. And then...
I think that was Brown?
Yeah. So then he goes back in the main cabin and keeps working on his stuff.
It started with an expedition of 8 people.
Yeah. And now they're down to 1.
Yes.
We had 5 die before the serial started. 2 die after the serial started. On screen.
Summers. Lorenzo.
What's its old death count?
11 on screen.
On screen and off screen?
10 off screen, so like 21 total.
Children's show, 5 deaths an episode.
A lot of it was implied deaths and off screen.
That's a 10, but we had a lot of them on screen.
Historically, we only record the on screen deaths for...
Right, well, unless they're significant, but in the future you'll see thousands, millions, billions wiped out at a time. Just like that. Most of it's off screen, of course.
I heard a great crying out in the Force.
Exactly.
Alderaan.
Yeah. Pretty much. Okay. So anyway,
does that have to do with the Weeping Angels?
No. Daleks always.
Solar flare.
Daleks. All right.
Solar flares are always wiping out civilizations.
No, I like that movie knowing. Alright, so anyway, about the same time, it appears that there's a rescue operation to go help the expedition. And they are actually coming into orbit about the same time. They did not pick up the emergency signal, but they are scheduled to land on the planet. So they send down an expeditionary force, and they find the Doctor
and some corpses.
Right, and several of the corpses. And they're like, well, hey, you must have the guy that killed the corpses. And the Doctor's like, no. And then he just goes like this, and he's like,
I don't remember that part.
Remember that? Episode 1? He's got his face in his hand, and he's just talking to him. Right.
I remember they called him a prisoner, and you didn't like that.
Yeah. That's episode 2.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, they capture Sarah Jane and the Doctor. And they capture Sarah Jane because she was in the TARDIS, and they put a clamp on the TARDIS where she couldn't open the doors, and they sent it up into the ship via transmat beam.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Right.
They never say what the ship is called, which they normally do.
True, they didn't hear. But they put her in the quarantine area of the ship.
With not enough oxygen, apparently?
Yeah, apparently. Because she's an alien to them. So she eventually opens the doors, she comes out, and she's like, I can't breathe. And they're like, oh, she requires oxygen. Send in oxygen, which they do. So they get her. Eventually, they go ahead and land the ship. And they take her and the Doctor, and they put them in the brig on the original expedition ship. And they are looking around to figure out things.
They're trying to find Sorensen.
Right, trying to find Sorensen. So all this stuff's going on, and then finally, the Doctor and Sarah Jane manage to get out of the brig because they're low on power. So the Doctor manages to break the magnetic seal. They crawl out.
So this expedition craft keeps getting sapped of power, and we correlate that with the appearance of this semi-transparent spaghetti monster that sucks these people into mummies, and then it sucks the power from the ship.
Right, but it's kind of a decent negative red effect.
Yeah, it's cool.
They did a good job with the budget they had, okay?
No,
seriously.
Nice.
And it's supposed to be displayed as a monster of pure energy. A living entity of pure energy.
Yeah. And then, so that thing shows up. It starts sucking the power out. So it makes the magnetic locks on the window weak enough to where they can pull it down and climb out. It sucks off another guard.
Well, hold on. First, it's threatening the Doctor and Sarah Jane, and that's where episode 1 ends.
And Sarah Jane describes the presence of this energy monster as like a cold, zapping energy.
Right, she felt it twice by this point.
Yeah. Doctor doesn't feel it so much.
Well, he's a Time Lord. And apparently she's the only woman in the serial, so it might be specific to women.
She does a really great job in the serial.
She does, yeah.
Intuitive.
She comes up with a lot of good ideas.
I thought this was a good moment for Sarah Jane Smith as a companion.
You'll see some more in the next one. All right.
I like Sarah Jane Smith.
Oh no, she's fantastic.
Good.
She probably has a plurality of people believing she's the best companion ever.
Good deal. It's nice that she's, there's a bit of development going on because this past season it just felt like she was much more the damsel in distress character, where every single serial she ended up half dead or dying or almost dying or having a 50% chance of dying. So now she's actually, it feels like she's a lot more thinking on her feet, making her own escapes, having her own conversations kind of thing.
Okay, I don't think she was quite that bad, although you could make that argument.
She was getting a brunt of a lot of...
Right, she was. But you could also argue now that Harry's gone, she has to be both occasionally damsel in distress, but also a bit of a male companion to the Doctor.
A lot of the companions play this rescuing force of the Doctor, because the Doctor also plays his own damsel in distress sometimes.
Yes.
Where it's the superhero needs to be saved by the sidekick kind of scenario.
That happens a lot in the modern stuff, mostly by the female companions, but also occasionally by the men. Because the Doctor gets in positions where...
You think at some point he would learn better?
In the old stuff, the Doctor was always supreme, and the companions are down here. In the modern stuff, they try to elevate the Doctor, the companions to the level of the Doctor, and in some cases, like with Clara, even above the Doctor. She is all that, and the Doctor's nothing. It's one of the reasons I hate Clara.
Well, we've had this type of situation before, but only in very specific, specialized area where, like, Zoe is this brilliant mathematician, and sometimes she outsmarts the Doctor with just simple equations.
Same for Adric, occasionally. Yeah.
So the Doctor is this professor of general knowledge. He's very kind of arrogant. He's very kind of arrogant, sure of himself and his general base of vast knowledge, where he makes a lot of assumptions and rounds off sometimes in quick calculations. So we see these moments where the companions are actually, better than or show them up in some situations.
Flashes of brilliance.
Where they have very specific, specialized areas of expertise.
Right, flashes of brilliance. Yeah. But the Doctor's supposed to be great all the way around.
Jack of all trades, kind of.
Yeah, master of all trades in this case. Okay, so...
Jack.
Master. Alright.
We'll call him the queen of all trades.
The Doctor of all trades. Alright. So, episode 2... like I said, there's a lot happening. It could have been 6 in the old days, but I prefer this 4-episode clip. Episode 2, a guard comes up, saves the Doctor and Sarah Jane, but then gets mummified himself. Some other guards hear the scream. They come to his aid, and they start shooting the Doctor and Sarah Jane, who then run off into the jungle.
They see that they've escaped, another dead body.
They're assuming that, yeah. In the meantime, they found Sorensen, and he explains to them what's so important about his work. They don't understand at all. Okay, Selimar is boneheaded and straightforward. They actually take a decent amount of time to develop several of the guards, which I like.
They had a couple of these henchmen. What was his name? Dehan was a very musclehead kind of.
They complained a lot. I like that. And then who was the other guy with him, the skinnier black guy?
With the beard, it was Ponty.
Ponty, that's it. Yeah. And they made a great duo. I like that. I really like their duo.
Yeah, I like Ponty.
They end up both dying, of course. Anyway, so... Alright, everyone in the expedition has died except for Sorensen, and people are slowly but surely starting to die off in the rescue ship. The Doctor and Sarah Jane are making their way into the jungle, and the big electric monster comes by them and they hide, and Sarah Jane's like, "Woof, that was lucky," and the Doctor's like, "Well, it's almost day. Everybody seems to die at night, you know."
Never explains why the monster doesn't like day.
I think it has to do with the matter and the antimatter. I think the daytime is too much matter, like the sunlight pinking off of the matter. And I think the nighttime is better because the antimatter doesn't have to deal with the sunlight.
That makes sense.
Yeah. That, of course, is a suppositional theory.
Antimatter is always like cold and anti-energy.
Right.
So the more heat would be kind of counter. Yeah,
and that's why in the Three Doctors that that antimatter universe pocket was so cold and barren. Yeah. All right, so
you're talking about Omega's planet.
Yeah, the Three Doctors. Yeah. And we're gonna deal with a fun bad guy next serial that's kind of akin to Omega.
I loved Omega. He's such a great villain. I wish he'd come back. Does it come back?
Not yet, no. We'll see that. All right. Anyway, so the Doctor and Sarah Jane manage to get to this pit, and this pit, they're looking at it, and
they describe it as a pool. A pool. It looks like a pit because it's just completely black.
Right.
But the Doctor describes it as a pool of liquid with no reflection, so it reminds you of this kind of venti black that just absorbs all light, and it just looks like a hole.
Yep. In the modern Doctor Who, if that's all you've watched, the equivalent would be the space puddle from Series 10 that falls in love with Bill.
There's this it reminded me of Bill?
Bill. A girl named Bill. She's a lesbian. The space puddle's apparently female. So Bill falls in love with the girl that was sucked in the space puddle, who takes the form of the girl who was sucked into it. And Bill falls in love with that and gets rescued by the space puddle after Bill's turned into a cyborg. And
it's a lot.
Spoilers. Yeah. We're not going to see that you're not going to see that for years.
There's a space puddle in Star Trek that was really cool.
Okay. But anyway, the closest modern equivalent is a space puddle, but it's just a puddle of pure black.
It reminded me of this YouTube video I watched about this science guy talking about different blacks and how much they absorb light. And he has these 3 black squares on a piece of paper. He's like, this is regular Sharpie. This is the darkest venti black that is supposed to absorb light. And then this third one he's like, this is my own black here. This is my own square of black that I made. And he keeps shining these brighter luminosity flashlights on it. Mm-hmm. And you see like the venti black is very black. And then the Sharpie, the light's so bright it just looks like a white. It just blends in with a piece of paper. And then his black is super, super black, and it's not at all affected by the flashlights. And then he takes a laser pointer and he shines it across the 3 blacks, and it shines over the Sharpie, and it shines over the venti black, and then it disappears when he gets to his black square. And then he goes, my black square, it's just a hole in the paper. It's not, it's not actually.
What?
So you have the 3 black squares, and it's a Sharpie, and then there's this paint called venti black, which is really black. And then the 3rd black square was actually just a square hole in the paper.
Okay, welcome back.
That's why I wasn't affected by the light.
Exactly, okay.
So this really black pool of antimatter, it looks like a hole.
Well,
which it was a hole, but...
Right. It was a hole. It was like basically a well between our universe and their universe. We found out in the meantime that this is a Zeta Minor.
Yeah, Zeta Minor.
Zeta Minor. Okay, so apparently there's the universe, and
not last as in only planet, but last as in
the very last
furthest recorded.
There's the universe. There's a few things out on the very rim of the universe, and then way out, way past that is this planet. And the reason is this planet,
Beginning Meatball planet.
Right, is a cross between. It's the bridge between the 2 universes, and we'll find something like that in the E-Space trilogy later on with the same Doctor. But it's a bridge between the universe of matter and antimatter. Yeah, the 4th Doctor, the same Doctor, yeah.
Is that one?
Yeah. So.
His name's Baker.
Tom Baker, yeah. Yeah, it's the other one we have to go for Tom because there's a Colin Baker 2 Doctors down.
Isn't there a Tom Baker also?
No, this is Tom Baker. Colin Baker's the 6th
Colin
Doctor.
Baker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright.
That's this one.
That's Tom Baker.
This is Tom Baker.
That's Tom Baker.
Yeah.
Colin Baker's top left. Yeah.
My arm's not that old.
Okay.
This one's number 4.
Yep.
This one's
number 4.
Tom Baker.
Yeah.
Opposed to that one, it's Colin Baker.
Right.
Tom.
How drunk are you?
Colin. What?
How drunk are you?
Where were we? This one's Tom Baker.
Alright. So.
This is the one in question that we're currently talking about.
Yes, and will be for some time because it's the longest running Doctor.
Just for their benefit in case they're confused.
I doubt they're confused. Okay.
You're saying. Spaghetti.
What I was saying.
Full of venti black.
Pool of antimatter, black, and
this doctor. Not that one.
oh my gosh, what happened next? They get to the pool. You've run me off the rails.
That's when they send out the eyeball drone. They find
it's a
the
drone.
pool.
They call it an optical what?
I have it written down here somewhere.
Right, the guys on the ship, the guys on the rescue ship, sent out an optical transmitter or something.
It's a drone with an eyeball. It's called an oculoid.
Oculoid, yeah. But it's essentially a drone. I mean, this is the 70s. They call it an oculoid, but it's a drone. And
see,
it goes.
They can theorize about future technology.
Right, and they were
don't
correct.
Have to use floppy disks.
This is what I said. They were absolutely correct. This is a drone. They were on the. They hit the nail on the head.
Had a cat eye.
Yeah, had a cat eye, which was kind of creepy for Alyssa.
Yeah, and it saw this doctor, Tom Baker, the one we're talking about currently. Not that one, Colin Baker. So then they spot them at the pool of Venti Black antimatter, and they got there real fast. Like a whole bunch of guards showed up immediately, real quietly. So Sarah Jane Smith and the doctor are captured again. They're brought back up to the nameless space station ship that they have, and they're once again interrogated about their involvement and why they're so closely linked to all these dead people that are showing up.
Correct. And on the ship, we have Salamar, the captain, doesn't believe him at all. But his first mate, who also seems to be the medical officer, and the highest ranking...
Civilian?
No, not civilian. Highest ranking officer on the ship, besides the captain.
Are you talking about Wyszynski?
Right, Wyszynski. He's the... It's a small ship, so he's the medical officer, he's the highest ranking other officer, and...
Medical officer is the next in rank to the controller.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so he has a lot of pull, and he's really good. He's older and wiser, like 55 maybe?
70.
No. People were more grizzled back then because they survived the Second World War. So he might have been
Levi
55,
thought you were
60.
like late 50s. He's like,
53.
like 57. I'm like, no, he's 53. I told him that I was going to tell you that.
It doesn't matter what he thinks I am. Reality is what it is, you know? But okay.
It's all that wisdom in your eyes. There's an extra...
It's the wrinkles and the gray hair.
It's an extra 4 years, 5 years of wisdom in there.
That was my first marriage, thank you. Alright. So, but he believes him. Wyszynski believes him. Yeah. And the doctor starts saying, hey, this is bad.
Tom Baker.
Alright, wait, continue.
Where were we?
Second episode.
There's a whole lot of technical jargon in this episode.
Yeah.
So, what happens then? Do they jettison them?
No.
They try to take off, but they can't.
Right, try to take off.
Oh, there's this whole scene about, so they get Sorensen and they load up his 6 pounds of antimatter, which is enough to power their planet for like 2 centuries.
Right. 20 units or so, 40 units. Because it was 10 trips, 4 units each.
There's only like 6 buckets.
That's all we see, but they state there's more, but yeah.
Oh. They can't count the buckets though. So they try to take off. They can't take off. They're having problems lifting off. The doctor tells them that they can't take off because the antimatter is kind of anchoring them to the planet. They don't believe him, but then the spaghetti monster shows up and he's attacking the ship. They send out like 6 guards to shoot at it. He's impervious to the phasers. He starts killing the guards. They're dropping dead.
3 or 4 of them.
Big panic moment, and the doctor says, you gotta boot the force field, and it's like, no
with
good.
The atomic accelerator.
The drive's dead, so they're like, link it to the atomic accelerator and then boot it. And he's like, it's too risky. He's like, there's no other options. So the doctor kind of buys favor in the fact that he suggests this saving grace kind of thing, and it works. So they link the new power to the force field generator. It scares off the spaghetti monster.
Atomic accelerator.
A whole lot of technical jargon in this episode. They're making up a lot of terms.
Well, no, some of those terms are actually real, but they do make up a lot of them.
Real stuff's made up too.
Okay.
Like scientists say, okay.
So the monster goes back.
So this kind of buys the doctor favor, then
time.
And they started listening to him. He's like, listen, we can't take off because of the antimatter. Let me go talk to the spaghetti monster, and we're going to have to ditch the antimatter, which obviously Professor Sorensen is very upset about because it's his life's work. He's like, you're crazy.
We're not there yet. What's the end of the second episode?
He falls in the hole.
The doctor falls in the hole.
The doctor. So he goes back on the planet to negotiate with the spaghetti monster.
This really should have been 6 episodes.
So they can take off. They send out the iDrone, the Oculoid, to follow him.
The drone.
The spaghetti monster shows up, doesn't really reason with the doctor, keeps growing really big, knocks the doctor off balance. This one, Tom Baker, is the one that we're talking about.
Well, this is after he took some of the antimatter for himself. And he puts it in that little tin. He takes a little bit of the antimatter, puts it in the little tin.
A lot of stuff happened in 4 episodes.
Seriously, yeah, it was. He takes the antimatter, puts it in a little tin, looks like a little breath mint tin. And then the doctor gets knocked, literally a cliffhanger, into the pit.
Yes.
All right, end of episode 2, beginning of episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor's falling, and Sarah Jane's looking at the monitor because they've got the drone looking at it, and she's like, "What? What? The doctor can't be dead." And take a bathroom break.
Do you remember what happens?
Mostly.
Okay. Oh, you're ready this.
You're the one who takes notes. I can most remember.
It ends with the episode
Wait, these
3.
are notes?
Episode 3 ends with the ejection.
Yeah, these are barely notes. Okay.
Yeah. Footnotes.
Okay, so episode 3, the doctor falls in the pit. Turns out he's kind of falling Alice in Wonderland style down the rabbit hole. He ends up meeting with the red electrical shape and has a conversation with it. Sarah Jane takes advantage of the confusion on the rescue ship and she manages to escape. She goes down to the jungle. She manages to eventually make her way to the pit, and the doctor is soon seen crawling out of the pit, and he kind of collapses. And she's like, wait, what are you doing? And he collapses again. Finally, she says, well, what are you doing? He says, well, did you have a talk with the entity? Did you communicate with it? Or she says, yes, I did. If we can get all the antimatter off the ship, we can go. So then the ship is about to try to leave again, and the good guy, Vashinko, he's like, well, no, the doctor's alive. We can see them on the Oculus. We can't go. So stupid Heinrich Salamar's like, well, we gotta go. And he's like, no, we're gonna go rescue the doctor. He's alive. Salamar's like, well, no, we can't rescue a corpse. She's like, no, he's alive. So they go out, they get the doctor, they bring him back, along with Sarah Jane. They get him onto the ship. The doctor still has that tin of antimatter in his pocket. But it turns out that stupid Hanyak Sorensen kept one of the containers of antimatter when all the others were taken off. He put them in his private cabin. So the ship tries to take off. Eventually the doctor wakes up, says, oh no, I've still got this antimatter, we can't take off. So you send a guy to go jettison it. The guy is running the corridors, trying to get to the jettison station, and he gets murdered by a creature-esque. This serial is very Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
That's when the other spaghetti monster shows up. This one's tougher.
They don't look like quite spaghetti monsters.
We're talking about this one here.
Yeah, it's a Dr. Colin Baker.
No, this one.
Yeah,
No.
that one's Colin Baker.
So I downloaded this new video game. It's a zombie video game. It's called Back 4 Blood. Back 4 Blood. Made by the same people that made Left 4 Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Looks fun.
Cool.
Yeah. But you've been playing lately, Heather?
No, my computer screwed up.
What happened?
Some friends of mine tried to fix it. Now it's worse. And I've got to get professionally fixed. And I don't even know if it'll render this video.
Does it boot?
It boots.
What kind of problems does it do?
You can only run one screen at a time, and not very well. Like I said, I don't know if it'll render this video, or if I'll have to wait for this video to be rendered after I get it fixed. If this video comes out several weeks after our November 1st date, it's because I had the computer fixed by a professional in the meantime.
Do you need me to render it? I have a computer at home. I can upload it.
No, I enjoy rendering.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so
sounds like a graphics card thing, maybe.
It's a.
Or is it just in the
It's
settings?
a video card / fan issue.
Oh, the fan's been giving you trouble before.
Well, both of them, yeah.
Yeah. You think something's magic? Okay.
Yeah, I built it
I'm sorry.
with the help of a friend because he told me I could do it, and he thinks the video card is the problem. I'm going, well, I don't know if that's a problem or if me building is a problem, but I'm just gonna get professional help.
Shannon's very good. Also, there's this PC repair place that I go to. Very professional. If you need like professionals to look at it, I can give you some numbers. I'd have to look it up. I don't remember the name of it myself, but that's where I went to when my motherboard had a short in it. And they're very nice people.
Well, text me the name of it.
Okay.
Okay, so if this video is 2 or 3 weeks late, it's because I got my computer fixed.
This video brought to you by technical difficulties.
Alright, so
Do we talk about the Vegas episodes coming up?
We have in a previous episode.
Okay.
We will soon.
That's this month. It's November already.
Yeah.
2 weeks from today is the 13th. We're leaving.
Well, let's figure out. I need to go get a camera bag for the camera, and I've already got a tripod bag, but we need to pack that in a suitcase. Alright.
we need to discuss the packing thing, because we're also bringing product with us.
We will.
Yeah.
Alright, so.
Duffel bag. Carry on.
Exactly. Alright, so.
Carry on. This one, Tom Baker, is the one we're talking about. Alright, carry on.
Hi, 5-hour episode. I never knew ye. Alright, so anyway.
Do you think we could get through 5 hours with 2 batteries?
I don't
2.5 hours each?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so. Oh my god, I forgot where I was. So,
we're talking about.
So they go and they rescue the doctor and the girl and Sarah Jane Smith. They bring him back into the ship. In the meantime, a couple of their men have died because apparently Sorensen has been turned into Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and he's currently Mr. Hyde. He has basically been poisoned by the antimatter to occasionally become a
superhero known as Anti-Man.
Werewolf-esque Mr. Hyde Anti-Man.
Now, the way he's able to fight off his Anti-Man corruption is he made this oral, looks like coffee, kind of antibiotic
like
for
but it's a
real
bit of a
steamy,
serum. It's a serum.
Liquid nitrogen.
But this doesn't work eventually. It stops working.
Dry ice, I mean.
Right. Anyway, so he goes off, he murders a guy, he goes off, he murders another guy, he goes off, he murders another guy.
He's just sucking guys off all over the ship. Even the bone marrow. That's their bone
right,
strike.
and eventually we're running out of people.
You remember that they talk about all the liquid being dehydrated, even the bone. So he's just sucking bones off all over the ship. These men sucking them off, sucking their bones dry.
And okay, so eventually one of the dead guys gets shot off into space in a ceremony by Vyshinsky.
Sounds Russian.
Well, we're in the far future. And apparently he's like the doctor, officer, so only he can eject people in space. So anyway, at this point, eventually, Solomon's going crazy.
Telemore.
And so many people have died that he now suspects the doctor and Sarah Jane of it, not because of his own idea, but because Sorensen has put that into his head. Sorensen's like, well, they're the aliens. They're the only ones with the technology to suck all the water out of people. And it's probably in their device, their Tardis. So
I feel for Salamar here. Kind of, he's a he's a relatable character in the sense that he's younger and he has aspirations. He what do you call that?
Ambition.
He's ambitious, and he has this responsibility thrust upon him, and he's in this situation which is very demanding and he's unfamiliar with. And he's butting heads with Wyszynski, who's his second in command, even though Wyszynski is much older and wiser, and probably better equipped for this bizarre situation. He's really doing his best, and he's kind of fighting off the fact that he's making the wrong decisions because he's supposed to be in charge. So he's doing his best, but it's not good enough, which obviously is very frustrating.
But eventually Valinsky takes control of the ship. All right. So anyway,
which he accepts, he kind of hands over control.
What happens, right?
And he still tries to help the situation.
No, he antagonizes the situation.
No, he said,
and then it helps the situation.
Yeah.
All right. So Salamar says, "All right, we've captured these." Even though there was one of the crew members who was completely killed. When the Doctor and Sarah Jane were on the bridge with everybody, he decides that the culprits...
It's not solid evidence. I mean, there's two
right.
of them.
It's all circumstantial evidence.
Right. So you can relate to it.
Because Sarah Jane screamed and the Doctor, karate chopped Salamar to get away. We were supposed to show him the TARDIS. And... what is that?
Decked him right in the face. This is a pin.
Oh, that's the
DVD.
DVD. So the Doctor got away, and they find Sarah Jane Smith and the Doctor above the corpse. He decides they are the problem, and he drags them literally into the bay.
That's the pose you're talking about. His candid pose.
Yeah. He drags them in the bay. We're going to be jettisoned like in a funeral.
Checked it off into space.
Yep. And the good guy, Wyszynski, he's like, I won't do it.
Pachinko? That's the machine you drop the ball and it has the pegs in it.
Pachinko. And Wyszynko's like, I'm not going to do it. And if you want some magnaflame, I'll give you some magnaflame.
Ooh. It worked.
Alright.
I swallowed some water and went down the wrong pipe.
Mm-hmm.
So it was I had a tickle. And a stiff drink usually fixes that.
Yeah. So Wyszynko's like, I'm not gonna do it. And Salamar literally physically grasps his arm, and Salamar's a much younger man, and he pushes it back, and he pushes the arm until it hits the bar and starts to eject Sarah Jane, the Doctor, out into space.
Great scene.
Great scene. Yeah, loved it. End of episode 3.
Brain bronze, struggle of authority.
All right.
That's the end of episode 3.
So episode 4, the same, the bit happens for the prelude.
Do you think we could arm wrestle?
Possibly.
I bet you'd win.
I doubt it. Alright, so somebody on the bridge is like, oh my god, come help! Because the electric monster, which we find out later is
Reg
Sorensen, comes and kills him.
Reg was the guy on the bridge.
Yeah.
Killed by Sorensen.
So everybody else goes to the bridge. The Wyszynko looks and he stops and he pulls back the deal to bring the Doctor and Sarah Jane back. Because he didn't want to kill them. So the Doctor and Sarah Jane managed to get out of those
ejection pods.
Ejection pods?
They kind of had like throat clamp.
I mean, basically coffins.
It doesn't show how they get out. Yeah.
Well, the Doctor was kind of knocked out. He got shot. Mm-hmm. Sarah Jane was awake, but she's really skinny, so she could get out. Yeah. And she undid the straps. But I mean, basically coffins.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the Doctor and Sarah Jane are like, well, we need to help these people. And the Sarah Jane's like, I felt the same feeling I felt down there, but it was in the presence of Sorensen. And there's like, oh, Sorensen's been compromised.
This doctor.
Yeah, the fourth doctor. Sorensen's been compromised by the radiation.
This right here.
Right.
You can tell it's him because his curly hair and his scarf is
Yes.
unique. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're not driving for a while. Alright. So, eventually, the doctor goes to Sorensen's room, finds the other antimatter. In the meantime, Sorensen is split into several entities because stupid Selimar went and got the neutron deal and sprayed him with it. He split in a whole bunch of different things.
A lot of technical jargon. I mean, to be fair, I would have done the same
A
thing.
lot of technical jargon. Sorensen was trying to be a leader, gets killed. 2, 3, 4 other guys get killed. The doctor eventually...
A room of 7 people, including Ranjit, which was their like communications officer.
Yeah.
That whole room.
Well, no, he was in the
quarantine area?
No.
Engine bay?
The plant room. Where you keep all the plants?
Greenhouse?
Yeah.
There's this movie, the space movie, where they have the plant room and the one guy that's in charge of the plant room, and he has the little robots that he's friends with, and he has his older brothers, and they're flying through space on the spaceship, and they rode around in like dirt bikes, and they like run over his plants, and then he gets mad and he jettisons them out to space.
What's the name of that movie?
I have no idea. But then he feels really bad about it, and then he's like, I can't live with myself, so then he jettisons himself off into space, and he leaves these little Wall-E robots to look after the plants on the spaceship. It's sad. It's a movie I rented from the... It sounds familiar, right? You've probably seen it.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's
Dark movie, yeah.
I can't think of the name of the movie.
Me either.
But I've seen it. It's a classic.
It's
60s
a classic
movie.
space, yeah,
60s movie.
60s, 70s.
Yeah.
I saw it when I was very young. Could never remember the name of it.
Anyways.
So kind of like that situation.
Alright, so all the people on the ship are dying. The doctor ends up saying, hey, wait, there's 2 sources of antimatter on the ship. Sorensen and this bucket of antimatter.
In the bucket.
So he gets Sorensen into he knocks him out with the bucket of antimatter, drags him into TARDIS. Then they...
Did we talk about his appeal to his scientist self rather than using bronze at first? He confronts him in the room. That's what happens first, right?
Yes. That is what happens first. Sorensen confronts him in the room.
It's a cool scene.
Dr. Jekyll, not Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
And he's like...
This next turn could be the last one.
Yeah, and I'm dying, and
antibiotic.
you're responsible. The
Great line about how scientists have the freedom to experiment at
only
the cost
because they
of
accept ultimate responsibility.
Yeah.
So Sorensen takes the antimatter, goes to the ejection pod chamber
To eject himself.
and it. They get in the 2 of 1. Just before he does it, he turns into Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
He goes off and he chases someone else. Doctor comes there, finds it, and he uses that as a shield against all the antimatter pods. Because there's a bunch of them antimatter things because stupid
The projections.
Semilar took the neutron pack on Sorensen.
A lot of astral projections of these energy creatures coming off the Salamar.
The red screen.
So-
but it was a good special effect. What they had to
I
work
liked it.
with. Yeah.
They're going through walls and stuff. They're locking down the ship.
They killed the 7 other guys in that other area.
The doctor's using the antimatter to protect himself as he's making his way to the TARDIS. He's followed by Sorensen, knocks him out with the antimatter,
Yeah.
drags him onto the TARDIS, shackles him up in these space Time Lord handcuffs.
Shackles.
Yeah. Which he bends out anyway, it was like spaghetti.
Alright. They go down to the planets.
Which, interestingly enough, the Doctor accurately pilots the TARDIS from the spaceship to the surface of the planet, right in front of the tool.
At this point, he's really good with the TARDIS.
But he's
and
not.
For many years hence.
It suggests the fact that the problem with the TARDIS is when they're traveling through time. Like, whenever he travels through space, he seems to do all right and fine. He can go from location to location, as long as he's not also traveling through time. It's when he tries to time travel and space travel that usually he's off by 30,000 years, or he ends up on the wrong planet.
Here's the thing. The TARDIS takes him where he needs to be. The TARDIS is sentient. The TARDIS is telepathic.
We don't know that yet.
Yes. We are not explicitly told that yet, but it is. And the TARDIS takes him where he needs to be, even if that's not where he was trying to go.
At this point in the show, all we know is it's the Time Lords that are using him as their puppets to...
Right, but I'm telling you,
off.
The TARDIS is telepathic, the TARDIS is sentient, the TARDIS takes him where he needs to be.
What if that's what the Time Lords want you to think?
And I'm really telling you right now,
using the Doctor as the pawn to get things done. And that's how they cut through all the red tape and the bureaucracy of the...
That happens a couple of times.
Okay.
But the TARDIS is actually made a sentient being.
That's what they want you to think. We'll see.
Okay, so the Doctor gets back to the pit at the exact same time. The Mr. Hyde creature has broken those bonds. The Doctor fights him. The Doctor defeats him, tosses him into the pit, and then tosses the last of the antimatter in the pit. And the Doctor begins to take off, but the pit has now spits up Sorensen. And the Doctor's like, well, you were saved. You were allowed to go free because I kept my promise to return all antimatter to the planet.
His word as a Time Lord.
His word as a Time Lord. And Sorensen's like, wait, what? So the TARDIS goes back to the rescue ship, who was trying to get away. And now they're slowly drifting into known space, but they can call for an emergency refuel. And the Doctor and Sorensen walk out onto the deck, and then Sorensen's like, but I discovered this source of energy. I was like, no, you gave up that lie. You went for the kinetic energy of the planets of revolving. And he's like, oh, that's a great idea.
Sorensen blacks out, and the Doctor is kind of influencing his
future
train of thought. It's kind of like Men in Black when they
like 10 months or whatever.
Yeah. It's like Men in Black when they flash your memory and then they explain to you what really just happened and how you should feel about it. He goes, no, you gave that up. You decided to follow this other path of untapped energy potential. And he goes, oh yeah, that's really smart. Of course I did that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And then, for one of the first times ever, the Doctor actually sticks around to see to the safety of everyone.
Say goodbye.
Say, all right, I gotta be going. And
he and Sarah Jane leave.
And they leave. Supposedly back to Earth in London.
In theory.
To make their appointment they missed by 30,000 years in 5 minutes. But apparently they might show up on Mars instead. And see some pyramids. Because next time we're watching Pyramids of Mars.
Pyramids of Mars. 4 episodes. Great serial. And you're wrong. They show up on Earth.
Oh, okay. That's just judging by the title.
What questions do you have?
So we talked about the Doctor seems to be able to accurately pilot the TARDIS through space, but not time, which you disagree with because
you can do it through time. It's just there are other factors sometimes.
Yeah. Have we talked about the word of a Time Lord and how that is implied to mean something special, like Time Lords are bonded to their word?
We have not talked about that.
That's kind of how they imply it, but honestly, I don't see that because a Time Lord's word would be as subjective as a human's word as their bond, because just like humans are a mixed bag of, well, you have these honorable people who believe that they should live by their word, and then you have dishonorable people that will lie to get what they want. So the Doctor gives his word as a Time Lord as though that means something.
To the antimatter.
Right. But, we also have bad Time Lords like the Master.
The Master.
Who would obviously he would
You'll
probably
meet her later.
give his word as a Time Lord just to lie to get out of the situation. We would assume.
Right. Most of the good, but the word as a Time Lord thing is a brief mention and doesn't really come up much later.
Never comes up.
Well,
because I feel like the Doctor's done that.
Doesn't much come up later.
I feel like the Doctor's done that before. And they're like, why should we believe you? And he's like, I give my word as a Time Lord. But like, that doesn't mean anything to us. So I feel like this is the second mention of that. Which was a much more popular thing back in the day where people were, my word is my bond.
Exactly.
You had verbal agreements. You shook hands.
Exactly. Well, we still do that here in Texas.
No.
No, I have done that here in Texas.
You have, because you're very old school and classical and honorable.
50s, yeah.
And people see that and they recognize that. In practice, that is very much as old as, dueling with pistols. Like, no, everything has to be on paper or it's a rumor. People don't make deals over words anymore.
I've never dueled pistols, but I have shaken my hand on a deal. And it many times.
It's more symbolic nowadays than an actual binding. Nowadays, it has to be on paper for it to be in court.
In Texas, I would argue a handshake is just as good. Mm-hmm. But I'm not a lawyer.
I feel like the court wouldn't agree with you, but I agree.
No, I think in Texas it would.
But there's no evidence to a handshake. You have the defendant and the
plaintiff,
and they say, we shook hands, and the defendant said, no, we didn't. And then they go, where's the evidence? Is it on paper? No. Okay, well, it's your word over his word.
Well, it's a he says, she says thing.
Yeah, which is all that words and handshakes are nowadays. So if it's not on paper, it doesn't exist.
I don't like
And that's how I feel about my word as a Time Lord, because you have the Doctor who, you can trust him, you can shake his hand, he'll keep his word. Then you have the Master who would say that to get out of a situation. So.
Yeah, so, okay, any other questions?
Should we talk about the Tardis Key? The Tardis Key shows up again.
Yeah.
You think so? Sarah Jane Smith is a very long-term companion. She's been around for a while.
Right.
We've had people like Jamie. Did he? There's the metabolism detector, which opens the door for the Doctor without the key. But sometimes the key is necessary for companions. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's not, because didn't Jamie get into the TARDIS without the key?
It's super situational. But the key is still the one that Pertwee made, which he did for like a season, and then Tom Baker did it for 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. The different anything beyond that, it's the regular lock key.
At one point, it used to be Hartnell's ring, right, that would open it.
One time Hartnell's ring opened it as an emergency measure.
I feel like the TARDIS is just this lockbox, and there's multiple ways to open it. And
there are, but it's situational. It's so friggin' situational.
And we have the Doctor, once again, kind of being very galaxy brain and hubris, and he tells... Sarah Jane Smith, she says, well, I'll get the thing from the TARDIS. I know my way. He's like, that's a good idea. Goodbye. And then she goes, what are you waiting for? And she's like, well, I need the key. And it kind of, gives us the impression that he assumed that she knew how to get into the TARDIS without the key.
Forgot, yeah.
Which I feel like at some point, the Doctor's hubris is going to be this huge thing he's going to have to address at some point. Which we haven't really gotten to that point in his character development yet.
That does happen, but yeah.
Okay.
But anyway.
Like Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man and Tony Stark and.
All right. What else? Right, you keep talking. I'm going to the restroom. My apologies. Please forgive me.
So we talked about the Mordrastrians. Their purpose of them being so far out in the galaxy is they're looking for this alternative fuel source, because in their solar system, their planet's reliant of the energy from a dying star, which I thought stars, when they died, explode. They go supernovas. So maybe they're needing an energy source so they can do this mass exodus of their solar system. Anyway, that's what the Mordrastrians Morestrians are doing so far out in space. We talked about the eye drone that was called the Oculoid, which is was a kind of cool prediction of what drones are today. It's like this camera drone, very accurate for were we in 1975. I'm sure the military was probably experimenting with unmanned aircrafts at that point. We didn't really dive in too much about the other universe, which is apparently this random planet Zeta Minor, at the edge of the known universe. The last known planet is this gateway into the antimatter universe, which seems oddly specific. I don't know if we ever explore the anti-universe. Again, we've kind of seen a planet of antimatter. We assume that must have been in the anti-universe with Omega, which means the Tardis, being able to travel through time and space, also is able to travel into the antimatter universe. I'm very confused. What I really want to do is sit down and maybe do some Wikipedia diving on the timeline of Doctor Who, because in the year 37166, I feel like this is the furthest out we've been before, at least on paper, that they've mentioned the specific year, because I know in serials we've gone really far out, but they didn't. It's kind of hazy. They didn't really mention what year it might have been. Usually only when human people are involved do they really nail down a specific date, usually. But I feel like a timeline would be really interesting to see like what's happening where, and he's jumping back and forth in between different points in time. And then we're talking about alternate dimensions, like the antimatter universe, so it leads to this multi-dimensional kind of theory thing. So maybe that's something we explore further in the future. And then I kind of complained earlier about how there's a ton of technical jargon in these 4 episodes. It's very fast-paced. A lot of things are happening, a lot of characters showing up, a lot of names, a lot of those people die right away. It's very fast-paced, the plot's moving really quickly, but also like just every scene they're making up different names for different tools. They're talking about some like obscure device that measures something, and it's a little hard to keep up with. That was one of my complaints. Hello.
Sorry. Restroom and in-laws showed up, so there it is.
Do you have in-laws here?
They just showed up.
Oh, cool.
Things need to be taken care of.
Gotcha. I think we're just about wrapping up here. Did you want to talk about the other universe, the antimatter universe? Did we really talk about that yet? This gateway into this alternate universe?
It exists, and it's pretty much coming into play in this very serial. Mm-hmm. It's an antimatter universe. Later on, they talk about E-space universes during Tom Baker. And then much later on, we may get infinite universes.
Bizarre.
Seriously. Yesterday was episode 1 of series 13. And there's speculation on...
Have you watched it yet?
No, I can't. Okay. I don't have BBC America.
You don't have a VPN?
No.
Okay.
Eventually I'll watch all of series 13. I don't know what all that stuff means, but not yet. It's just speculation.
Cool. So you're kind of like following the plot through Wikipedia, even though you haven't seen the episode?
Wikipedia /
user feedback, viewer feedback.
Well, yeah. And what's it called? I'm on a big forum for it.
Rotten Tomatoes? Reddit?
No, neither of those.
I had this one guy who was a big fan of Lost, but never had time to sit down and watch Lost, so every night he'd just get on the Wikipedia and read about the episode of Lost.
It's funny. No, I'm on a British-based system, but it's got all the stuff, and I watched, we talked about Doctor Who on it. Spy something or something spy?
Never heard of it.
I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head.
Do they talk about James Bond?
No. Well, they do, but not on my forum.
Oh.
But digital spy. That's it. And I talk about stuff on there.
Cool.
Mm.
I've been branching into different websites and forums and sub-forums and getting into arguments with people on the internet, which is something I genuinely try to avoid.
It's futile, but we all do it.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
But other than the other universe, I think we've covered just about everything. We talked about how the Doctor accurately pilots the TARDIS. The Doctor actually says goodbye, kind of. He sticks around until the very end of events. He doesn't do the Batman disappears when people are talking back.
And so many people die. There's like one guy, Vishinko, and just a couple other guys.
And a few guards, and everyone else is dead. Very, very dark serial.
Correct.
Did we talk about how the Doctor interfered with an event that could have spelled the end of humanity?
Yes. No, we didn't talk about it.
We didn't really talk about...
But, yeah, he did.
So there are fixed points in time which aren't affected by time travel. And then there are events that would end all humanity if it weren't for the fact that the Doctor interfered, which means his interaction is a fixed point in time, or...
But all that stuff is situational.
Relative.
It's all
and
situational.
This is the one we're talking about. Baker, this Doctor here.
A little further to your left, but yeah.
This one here.
Yeah.
We're talking about this one right here.
Alright, anything else?
No. Okay. We talked about the other universe. Anything else to add?
Alright.
That's all of my questions.
One thing is we might get on Spotify soon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I figured out what Spotify was, and I Patreoned Awkward Ashley for $10 a month. Nice young lady, does some fun videos.
Yeah, you're on her Patreon. Yeah.
I'm a Patreon for her.
Good.
But now that we're on Patreon, you and I need to figure out how to put all our stuff on there.
Yeah, I can figure that out.
And maybe we can get some people to pay for our alcohol. And that'd be cool. And like $500 a month, we could pay for all our alcohol. We'd be good. And they could suggest alcohols they want us to try or something.
Yeah. There's this podcasting mic that's going on sale, so I think I'm gonna pick up a podcast mic and maybe do a separate recording, so I can just have a separate audio file that we can put up on Spotify as an audio only podcast
or something. But I mean, we're like 81 episodes in. We're finally talking about Patreon. I mean, it may or may not happen, or we'll do it and it won't be any good, but whatever.
Some things are time-based, some things are episode-based, some things are viewer or subscriber-based. Every channel progresses differently. We're at 29 subscribers, over 1,000 views, 81 episodes.
29 subscribers, But even if we get like $100 a month for alcohol, that's $100 a month for alcohol.
We'll get 100 cents a month.
100 cents?
Maybe.
All right. So we're going to try Patreon soon. We're going to work on it. And hopefully we'll have our first offsite episode in Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
If I can figure out how to take our equipment to Las Vegas.
Episode 83. Brought to you by Las Vegas. From Las Vegas.
Okay. No, next week we're going to do a movie. We're going to do a movie next week.
Okay, so it'll be 82.
Well, 82 or 83.
82 and 3.
Possibly. But next week
maybe one will be on the hotel, and the other one would be in like a live venue, like a street corner bar.
Yeah, like a rooftop bar in Vegas. That'd be awesome. But anyway, so next week we're going to do a movie, and we'll do some heroes and villains.
How do you think the mic quality is going to be on that? Are we going to have to wear like lapel mics? Because I have a couple of those.
I don't have any lapel mics.
I have a couple. We'd have to do a little bit of audio editing.
Well, bring them. All I have is this.
Okay.
Seriously, I don't know.
I don't know how long.
We've never done anything outside of this room for this podcast.
I'm excited.
Okay.
You're excited.
Be excited.
He's excited.
For
this
our
guy's
show.
not excited because he doesn't know. This is the one we're talking about. Is Tom Baker.
Yeah, he's still alive. All right. Be excited for us. Be excited for the show. be excited for our Vegas episode, and next week, hopefully, Heroes and Villains. We'll do a movie.
And Villains.
Yay!
Do we know who we're talking about next week?
No, I don't know, actually. We have a list somewhere.
A hero or villain. Tune in next week to find out. Until then, thank you for watching. Thank you once again for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye. It's always so awkward while you get up and I'm like, you're alone.
What?
Candidly pose.